Hello and welcome to Yarn Church. My name is Angela. This is my first podcast episode. I'm filming as the sun is setting at 4 p.m. in near Portland, Oregon. And I am a spinner, a knitter, a crocheter, and a little bit of weaver. I hope to do a lot more weaving this year, but primarily I'm spinning and knitting. So I came to fiber arts through my grandmother, who taught me to crochet when I was a little kid, maybe 12 or 13 years old. And I have met so many people through this craft, through knitting, through crochet, through spinning, and just about everybody I've met in this community has been so supportive and positive. And I found a knitting group here in Portland when I first moved here, and through all of the hard things that I've gone through in the last 11 years since moving to this area, that knitting group has been kind of my support structure, kind of the most constant support structure in my life. I don't have any family that lives near here. My family lives, my parents live in Kentucky, my brother lives in Wisconsin, and it's been such a support to me to have, knitting, spinning, fiber arts community here. So, during the first few years I lived here, I also left a church that I belonged to that was a really big part of my life, and especially a big part of my social life. Just about everybody that I knew here was part of that church, and it was important for me to leave it, but it also was a big loss in kind of community and support structure. And it was my knitting group that helped me pick up the pieces of that. Then later on, when I went through a divorce, my knitting group was what carried me through. The knitting group that I first started going to when I moved here, we always met on Sunday afternoons, and I started calling it Yarn Church, which is kind of how I came to my username here. And that's also reflects kind of my hopes for the community that I want to build here in kind of supporting each other as we learn together and go through whatever life brings to us. So without further ado, I'll get started on sharing some of the projects I'm working on. So I'll start with the project I'm working on kind of the most casually, which is a spinning project. I promise I have a couple knitting projects to share too, but I'll start with the spinning. This is one of my completed spindles. I'm planning on spinning up about 4 ounces. I think this is probably closer to 1 ounce of the fiber, maybe a little bit less. This is from a batt from Dicentra Designs, which is a fiber dyer in Salem, Oregon, so fairly local to me. I bought this at Oregon Flock and Fiber, this batt, and actually I've got a little piece of the batt here. I've already kind of torn it up into strips, so this is about as good as it gets as far as looking at what the batt was like before I started spinning it. But it's lovely and lofty, extremely soft. Anyway, I've been spinning it on these spindle sticks, which I really enjoy. So this spindle stick is from glassbead on Etsy, as is the glassbead that's on the end here. And one thing I really like about using spindle sticks is you can spin on this until you get a lot of fiber on here. And once it starts to get heavy, you can take the bead off. And you use the fiber that's built up here, and I mean, this is a lot more and a lot more balanced at this point. Once you get a good amount of fiber on here, your fiber actually becomes the whirl, so you don't actually need the glass bead on there anymore, and it keeps your spindle stick light as you go. And I find I can fit a lot more fiber onto the spindle stick. The other advantage of the spindle stick is it's a little bit less expensive than buying a full spindle. So you can have quite a few of them, and then you can spin a ton, and then, ply off of the sticks later, or, use this to store your singles rather than having to remove them from the spindle as soon as you're done spinning. So this spindle stick is came with the glass bead from Glassbead on Etsy, and then this spindle stick, it's a little bit thinner. I actually think I like these better. This is from Hershey Fiber Arts, also on Etsy. And when you order from Glassbead, they also sell Hershey Fiber Arts spindle sticks. So I just wanted to try both, and I like this better just because the tip is a little finer, and so you can get a lot more spin from a flick because of the smaller circumference up here. I do really, really like that. My other spinning project is this Corriedale comb top, which this is just a little piece of it. I have 2.5 pounds of this in a bag, and the bag's really loud, so I went ahead and pulled a little bit out just to show you. This is just a solid colored green Corriedale that I bought off of Etsy. I don't remember the name of the shop, and actually I don't recommend this, and so even if I remember the name of the shop, I don't think I would call them out for this. It was very inexpensive fiber that I bought when I was a relatively new spinner. I bought this probably over a year ago at this point, or maybe a year ago. And I don't know if I mentioned this. I bought this to be the main color of a pressed Flowers cardigan. It makes fine. The yarn that I've made from it has been fine. This is part of the sample that I spun up. It's wound up because I used it in a swatch already, but the yarn is not the softest yarn I've ever felt, but it's also not the roughest yarn I've ever felt. It's quite mid. Definitely worthy of being put into a cardigan. I think it's going to wear really well. Part of what's difficult about it is the staple length of this fiber is actually quite long. This is actually, I've drafted this out a little bit, so it's actually not quite as long as this, but I think that the length of the fiber is the problem that I'm having, and it's because I've gotten really used to spinning pretty fine short fibers. But yeah, this is it's a little bit long, but also I think there's a lot of variability in the length of the staple, and that's causing me some problems. But in reality, whatever is causing it, the experience I have while spinning this across the top, like from the comb top, is that it feels like the fiber is getting pulled out of my hands, and it's an experience that I've had more on my e-spinner. But I've been spinning this on my Maja Craft Rose, which has a fairly gentle pull, at least compared to my e-spinner. I have a lot of control over the tension, and I typically, I can spin things that you shouldn't be able to spin on a spinning wheel on the spinning wheel. I don't usually have problems with fiber pulling out of my hands on that. I just feel like I don't have very much control. So one of the things I've done to kind of solve that problem is, and one of the things you can do when you run into this is, if it's not working out to spin, across the top, is to pull out a staple length and fold it over your finger and spin it off the tip of your finger. And this is called spinning from the fold. And it gives you a little bit more control. It's when you feel like the fiber is getting pulled out of your hand and you don't have as much control, you can get more control by doing this. And this actually worked really well for me, and I'm enjoying spinning this now. So I started off doing kind of short forward draw from the tip, and then I switched over to doing long draw, and that's, I think, how I'm going to spin the rest of this. This was spun short forward draw from the top, and that's fine. I'm fine to switch now. I'm basically making a new sample that I'm going to match, and I think that a woolens or a more woolen spun yarn will actually be better for a cardigan anyway. Even this, though, is next to skin soft. It's not super soft, but it's fairly rustic, but it's fine. Like, I'd put it against my neck even. Kind of one of the things I kind of wanted to do on here is show you what yarn looks like after you've spun it and knitted it into a swatch. It's always something that I want to see when I'm when I'm watching podcasts where they're talking about their spinning is, well, what does it look like when you knit with it? So I do have a swatch. But yeah, this is the other color. So this is the main color, and then this is going to be the contrast color. This is also Corriedale. This is from Three Waters Farm, and this colorway is called Light Down. I really enjoyed spinning this. I did not have to spin this from the fold. This I spun across the top, and it was a joy to spin. And I am planning on spinning all of this from the top without having to fold it over. So we'll see how that works out when I get started on it again. Well, this is a swatch. It has multiple yarns in it, but the pink and purple yarn up here is actually fairly similar to how the contrast color is going to look in the sweater, and then this is the green. So I'll bring it up a little bit closer for you. So this is actually a swatch that I knit for a steeking class that I took with Andrea Mowry back in November for a knit social retreat. I really enjoyed it, and I'm going on another knit social retreat in February in Canmore, Alberta, which kind of brings me to my next project, which is my knitting project. And I knew I wanted to, I'll back up a second. When I went to the knitting retreat in Bainbridge Island, one of the regrets I had afterwards is I have knitted several Andrea Mowry patterns. Well, I had knitted one Andrea Mowry pattern multiple times, which is DRK Everyday Socks. But if you want to take a picture with the designer, showing the camera your socks is kind of awkward. And since then I've knitted several more, like I've knitted her shift cowl, and when the plumped up Harlow came out, I knitted that, and I wear it just about everywhere. But at the time, like, I just had the DRK Everyday Socks and several pairs of them, and I wish I had been able to wear one of her designs when I took a picture with her during the class. And so I decided, Sari Nordlund is one of the instructors at the knit social retreat that I'm going to in Alberta. So I decided, okay, I'm going to knit something torso up from Sari Nordlund. And originally I had planned to knit one of her, I think the Turtle Dove shawlette from her, which is it's kind of a small scarf really. And I have the yarn that I picked out that I wanted to do it with for my stash, and was ready to go. But then I went to Wisconsin for Christmas with my family, and I made my brother take me to a yarn shop near where he lived. I went to the Sow's Ear in Verona, Wisconsin, which is a great yarn shop. I highly recommend it. It's attached to a wonderful coffee shop. I highly recommend their coffee and their quiche. But I wanted to buy some souvenir yarn, so I picked this yarn out, which isn't from Wisconsin, but I did buy it in Wisconsin. This is 100% natural undyed Icelandic sheep wool, all from a single sheep. This the sheep from this yarn is named Emma, and this is from Taiga Farm and Vineyards in Ironwood, Michigan. That sound is the sound of my cat's feeder turning, so she'll probably be running across here pretty soon. This yarn is very rustic, as you might expect. It's softer than I would have expected, but it has little hairs that stick out, and so it is a little bit scratchy on the neck, but nothing intolerable. So, but anyway, I saw this in the yarn shop, fell in love with it, wanted to knit a sweater out of it. I saw the shop sample was a cable knit hat, and I liked the way cables looked. I thought, ooh, cables, Sari Nordlund. What can I knit of Sari Nordlund's? It's in worsted weight. And I saw the book club cardigan. I was like, that's it. So, okay, Ravelry, how much yardage do I need for my size? So if you've knit the book club cardigan, or if you've read the project pages on Ravelry, you will know that the yardages in this pattern are not the yardages you will need. You will need more yarn. And in many cases, people needed 400 yards more than what the pattern called for. So I bought 6 skeins of this yarn in the yarn shop, and it's not going to be enough. So I ordered more. Well, the yarn that came was from a different sheep. So this is actually the second sheep. This is the one stuff I ordered online. This is the last skein of what I bought in the store from a sheep named Brandy, and this is the Emma yarn. And so you can notice even on camera, these are not the same color. These sheep are not twins. These sheep are not sisters. These sheep are cousins at the best. So I have a little bit of a problem. So let me talk you through kind of the troubleshooting that I'm doing with this sweater. So here's my sweater so far, and I started this on December 30th. And I've been knitting like the wind. I never knit this fast, but I want to finish this before the retreat. And so I've set kind of goals of where I want to be, like milestones, where I want to be by certain dates. And I am just on track. I am not ahead. I am just on track. I have to keep reminding myself. But anyway, it was at this point that I started my 4th skein of yarn. Remember, I bought 6 in the first place. So this was where I started my 4th skein. So I measured, I knitted until I ran out of yarn, and then I measured this distance. So this is about, I can get about 5.5 inches, maybe 6, I don't know, 5.5 inches of yarn, of the body from my from one skein, and so I decided after this fourth skein, I'm gonna go ahead and find out how much the sleeves are gonna take. So I picked up and knit the first sleeve, which is the left sleeve, and I measured how much yarn that took. That took I think 86 grams of my yarn to knit the first sleeve, and so currently I'm on the second sleeve. It looks like I'm going to have just enough to complete the body, the main part of the body, both sleeves, with Brandy, which is the lighter colored sheep that I have 6 skeins of. And I plan to knit the button band, the insides of the pockets, and all ribbing in Emma, which is the darker color. And I think that will, I mean, it's not my favorite option. My favorite option would have been for all of the yarn to match, but I think it will at least look intentional. And so I've really enjoyed this pattern, other than the yarn yardages being wrong. I've really enjoyed the pattern. At this point, I've memorized the chart and can pretty much just knit it without looking too much. Yeah, it would be a really good pattern for someone who's beginning cables, or if you're just starting to learn how to cable without a cable needle. I've knitted this whole thing without ever touching a cable needle. It's been wonderful. So, and then I also recommend the yarn. I will say, if you like a really smooth, consistent yarn, this probably isn't the yarn for you. It reminds me a lot of hand spun, both the put up of it. I've never seen a commercial yarn wound the way this is. It's the way they did kind of half hitches before joining the inside and outside ends of the yarn together in a knot. And I've only ever seen hand spinners do that as kind of a shortcut, rather than doing figure 8 ties the whole way around, which is, it's fine. It's just, I thought it was kind of quirky and like very, oh, is this hand spun? And then there's also some sections that are almost like boucle, where the one ply is kind of twirled around the other rather than kind of twisted around the other. But again, I don't mind. And I don't think, if I tried to find a place where that happened, I don't know if I could find one. So it's been fine for this, but I think if this were something that was like smooth stockinette, I think you may be able to see the sections where that happened, and that may be a good thing. But if you're going for a really smooth, consistent yarn, this isn't it, but it is beautiful in its own way. And yeah, I've got, I think 4 or 5 more inches left to go on the bottom of the sweater for the main body, and then ribbing button band. I'm hoping to finish this sleeve, at least the, lighter color of the sleeve, tonight. And then, in the next week, do all of the ribbing, the insides of the pockets, maybe even the button band. I don't know. If I can do all of that, I think I'll be in great shape. And then I'll maybe even have time to block this. If I can't block it before I go on my trip, fine. I'll just sew the buttons on and be like, look, here it is. But yeah, I really hope I can also block this. I will say from my swatch, the blocking did not change the gauge at all. I don't typically pin my sweaters out. I typically just wash them like I would after wearing. So, and then the other thing is, I've tried this on, and I think it's going to be a nice fit. It's definitely going to be oversized because it already closes in the front without the button band, but it's supposed to be an oversized pattern, so that's a good thing. I think that's all I had for you. Oh no, I still have one more. And then the knit that I'm working on a lot less is just my socks that I pretty much always have socks going. For the last few months, I've been knitting a pair a month. And this month may be one that I don't finish a pair of socks, but I did finish a pair. I finished a pair in December. I started these in December as well. This is actually the second sock. Let's see, the first sock is inside out because I was sewing in ends, but this is the first one. Here's the second one. I'm doing toe up, Soxploration shadow wrap heel, which you can, the instructions are for cuff down, but you can also knit it toe up just exactly the same way. Yeah, really like this pattern. I don't know how many times I've knitted this, but it's kind of my go-to if I'm not sure what to do and I just want to, stripe some yarn, see what happens. It's my favorite. And then the yarn is from Freckled Whimsy. It is the Hello Winter colorway, which was the December colorway from the subscription. And this is in the Splendid base, I believe. It's the base that's 80% merino and 20% nylon. And I like a hardy base, but I also don't really wear through my socks. I have yet to get a hole in a pair of my hand knit socks. And so when I tried the 80% merino, 20% nylon sock base, I love how soft it is. I love how it feels in my hands. Love it when I'm knitting with it. And so I decided to get that as my subscription because I never have problems with holes anyway. So it is what it is. And then I think that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope to see you again very soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this is something that you enjoyed and you're interested in seeing more. And yeah, I hope to see more of you. Have a great new year. Bye-bye.